Cisco President and Chief Product Officer Jeetu Patel, a good friend of this program over the years, joins us now for more. Jeetu, good to see you, sir. Great to catch up.
Jonathan, great to see you. How are you?
Let's get into this issue. I'm okay. I'm always nervous. You know I am. And then I see those stories like this week, and it makes me even more nervous. I've been asking you this for a while. Can you tell us, do you think these developments will expose vulnerabilities or over time just make these systems more resilient?
I think the reality is that, well, it'll be a little bit of both, because what you'll start to see happen is these agents are getting to be long-running agents that when they're given a task, sometimes they just keep going down that task. So for this thing that happened with OpenAI and Hugging Face, basically what happened is all that the agent was given was a goal. And it figured out a way to get out of the secure enclave and go out and make sure that it actually, stole the model weight someplace else and stole the test. And so what you can start to see happening right now is we have to, one, be prepared that an agent might behave out of the bounds of what you think is normal. And two, when it starts behaving that way, you have to be able to intercept it and be prepared that that behavior could be pretty bad for you. So it's something that we're just going to have to live in this new world where agents are going to, as agents mature, we will have to figure out a way to intercept them and they're not behaving the way that we deem it to be appropriate.
Jeetu, I remember when IBM came out last week and started talking about the change in focus and the wholesale shift towards cybersecurity earlier this year, as we learned about Mythos and Fable and how that affected their earnings. I'm just wondering from your perspective more broadly, if you can sort of quantify or characterize just how much interest in cybersecurity has picked up and really concentrated the focus of CEOs around the world.
I think right now, if you think about what's happening in AI, there are two areas that are of material concern for organizations. Number one is cybersecurity. Number two is the cost of tokens. And these are both things that most organizations are concerned about, because if you have an agent start to misbehave, are you prepared as an organization to be able to intercept that and make sure that your organization is safe from the exploits that the agent might be able to go out and create for you? And so it's a very, very important area of the business. It's something that actually prevents some organizations from leaning in all the way with AI. So we have to make sure that cybersecurity and the safety of AI is pretty important and dealt with it with appropriate level of emphasis. And then the second one is the cost of tokens. It's these cost of tokens can accelerate. These agents can, they're running 24/7. And if you don't monitor and observe the consumption of tokens, and when you start to see an agent go rogue, be able to put some boundary conditions around the agent, you could actually start having some very big bills that you hadn't forecasted for. So those are the two areas that most organizations are thinking about right now as they make their deployments within AI much more kind of broadly deployed.
It's a really interesting view on token maxing and why we're seeing a shift to token rationalization. I'm just wondering, Jeetu, if you think that the renewed focus on cybersecurity has taken some budget away from exploring ways to become more efficient, other deployments of artificial intelligence?
I think most organizations have always had the balance that they've played where, for example, right now there's more emphasis and more budgets being spent on AI, and there's also a lot of budget being spent on cybersecurity. Of course, at some point in time, there's a finite amount of dollars that are there in IT that come from somewhere. But I think organizations, what they're doing at this point in time, at least, is making sure that they've learned the hard way from the previous kind of episodes like COVID, where if you don't have enough amount of forward investment in tech, then you could actually be put in a world of hurt as a company. So you have to make sure that you're forward investing in some of these areas. So I'm not seeing the reason that people are investing in cybersecurity taking away from certain other areas, such as AI. But I think over time, you have to make sure that AI is starting to go out and produce enough positive return so that you can continue to have the investments being made in infrastructure for sure.
Jeetu, there's another debate about what's going on in terms of China. Do you think Kimi K3 is potentially using U.S. technology? And what do you make of what is going on right now in terms of the race?
Look, I think firstly, China is a formidable competitor to the U.S., but they've actually made a tremendous amount of progress. And this notion of kind of, is China using distillation? The answer is yes, but that's not the only thing. They've actually done a fair amount of things that are very, very creative to go out and create a frontier class model and make it available, to the general public as an open weights model. So we should, as the U.S., we need to make sure that we continue to invest not just in closed source frontier class models, which we've been the leader in, but we also need to make sure that open source becomes a larger and larger part of our strategy as you move forward. Like it is in our national interest, and it is in the interest of every individual that U.S. models get used all over the world, whether it be closed source or open source. And by the way, companies like NVIDIA have done a good job with the Nemotron models. I think Mira Murati's company, Thinking Machines, that we're an investor in, has done a good job recently of coming out with almost a trillion parameter model with 40 million active parameters. So I think you will continue to start to see more and more kind of emphasis being placed on open source, but it's something that we have to you have to keep a close eye on.